Y'all, and then when he microchipped her, she gonna say, I'll never forgive you for this. And girl, the next day, they did it. And then she was cool. Girl, he microchipped you. What the fuck?
Swagged out, familiar, we bringing them gas out. I still got some racks stuffed in the trap house. Off the 42, I'm blowing her back out. I'm back out, bullshit. Swim back with a full clip. They say.
Well, I think I owe y'all an apology. Like 30% of y'all though. Like not all of y'all, because some of y'all was very much dumb. But it finally happened to me. I read a book so terrible that at the deep depths of my soul, I wanted to write a 15-page long Goodreads review about how fucking terrible that book was. And when I was going through those emotions, I really felt what y'all was feeling. When y'all read something that triggers you so bad, you just have to go in full detail about how much you hate it. I'm sorry, I get it. I tried. We're gonna talk about it. So there was this book that was recommended to me by TikTok, and I get a lot of my recommendations from TikTok, I'm not gonna lie. And I already made a TikTok about how I'm not taking no recommendations from TikTok, but sometimes y'all recommend good shit. But anyways, this book was recommended by several people, several different posts. I was like, okay, fine, I'll read it. It's been 6 months since I downloaded that book, and I tried to get through it. I was like, okay, maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm in a book slump. This shit's bad. I'm gonna tell y'all what book it is. Miss Adelaide Forrest, I apologize. If the rest of your work is not terrible, I would not know. But this shit was fucking awful, Miss Girl. Bloodied Hands by Adelaide Forrest is possibly one of the worst books I've ever read in my life. And I don't even like judging books very harshly like that, but this shit physically made me angry. And I couldn't pinpoint why until I got on Goodreads. And somebody summed it up perfectly for me why I fucking hated the book. Okay, but let's just go back, all right? There's so many things I have to say. It's a mafia romance, and sometimes, I picked the book up, I was like, sometimes I'm feeling a little mafia dude, you know what I mean? And I've read a lot of mafia romance in my life, like a lot. I'm talking about fan fiction, full books. I read a lot. And this book here, even before that, I didn't like when people would compare books to Wattpad or Tumblr or fan fiction, because it's like a lot of those writers are very amazing and they should be full published authors because their shit is fucking amazing. Like, they 75-part series be real good. But this shit felt like a 12-year-old back in 2013 who doesn't know anything about the mafia, doesn't know anything about how this shit works, wrote a story and then got it published. Y'all, let's start at the beginning. The girl's name is Ivory, right? I thought she was cool. At the beginning was cool. I was like, okay, maybe I like it. She's a food blogger. So she cooks real good and she makes a little blog, whatever. She got cool friends. The beginning is something about how her and the dude broke up in high school, but now she grown, whatever. I like the girl in the beginning. Like, she was cool. She seemed smart in the beginning. Why did they make her so fucking stupid? They made this girl comically dumb. I got through 75% of this book. That's 3/4. That's like, this much book was left and I would have been done. And I couldn't do it. First of all, a lot of us who read these type of books, we love a controlling man. We do. We love his personality and all the things. But this shit really felt ran through. Like, it felt rushed. Or maybe, like, I don't know. Like, I couldn't fully articulate what was wrong with it. But it just felt like, why are we here? So, what made me put the book down was the fact that all these things have happened. Let's talk about what happened. In the beginning, she's at the bank and there's a robbery, but one of the robbers recognizes her and they're like, oh, tell, I forgot his last name, but the main dude, that we didn't hurt you, right? And she's like, what the fuck? So she drives to her high school ex-boyfriend's house, and whatever, they get into an argument, whatever, and then he starts putting a bodyguard at her door. What else happened? He takes her on a date to a nice restaurant, I think, that he owns, and then there's another powerful man there, and he's all like controlling and doesn't like that the other man is talking to her, whatever the fuck, right? He drives an Aston. What else happens? He regularly has bodyguards at his house. He lives in a ginormous house with security, armed guards, and all that kind of shit, right? She meets his family, and they're Italian, and then they pull out guns. But then when they get home, he's like, I think this is 75% into the book, mind you. He explains to her what he does. And she gets upset and starts crying. Oh, but wait, I'm forgetting a part. He microchips her. Like a cat. He microchips her. And we'll get to that. We'll get to that later. And so she starts crying. And she's like, you sound like a mobster. And then he doesn't say anything. And she starts crying and she hits him and she says, I don't want to be a mob wife. Girl, what the fuck did you think was going on? He owns several restaurants. Your family told you that he was dangerous. He pulls out a gun. And you're confused as to what his business is. That's what made me put the book down, because ain't no way she was that fucking stupid for 75% of the book. Like, everybody was telling her. Her friends knew back in high school. Everybody knew. But she was like confused and crying. What were you crying about? He microchipped you. So I couldn't do it. It made my blood boil so bad. And normally that kind of shit would be exciting, but I think the way that it was written, there was no reason for us to care about these characters whatsoever. Like, there was no resolution. Every time they fought, nothing would get solved. He would just do shit, and she would be upset, and then that was it. And then she's back cool again. Like, there was no reason for us to root for them as a couple. There was no backstory as to why she felt the way she felt about him or why he loved her. It was really fucking stupid. It was. And I wanted to crawl out of my skin because nothing about him was attractive. Nothing about him made this book interesting. Nothing about him was like, this is a book boyfriend. This shit was just awful. He was cringy. So cringy. The pet names were cringy. I wanted to literally rip my esophagus out every time I read it. I don't know. His personality, there was no redeeming qualities about him, honestly. I understand. Like, I fully understand the book Karens, I understand, because sometimes you just read some shit and it just makes you so angry that you can't do anything but write out a fully detailed essay about how fucking terrible this is. There's other books in the series. I will not be checking them out. I read 70. I hate quitting books. Like, I feel so guilty when I have to DNF a book. This was my first DNF ever in my life. And I didn't feel guilty because I should genuinely... Why would it take me 6 months to get through a book like that? Every time I read it, it just put me in a bad mood. Because it was just so terribly... Oh, and the typos. Okay, there were so many typos. I've read so many young adult, even older, like by older, you know, more seasoned authors. They include all of the details, all the misogyny, all the realistic traditional parts of Italian mobsters. This shit was all of it put together in the worst way. There was the misogyny part, but it wasn't cool and it didn't make sense. And then there was the, you know, the obvious smut, but it wasn't good. It didn't make me feel nothing. I was just like, okay. I wanted to get to the part where the story got good. The story never got good. It never got there. 75% of the book.
To include this part, but there was such an issue with them doing,
or was it a chameleon?
Side plots, and
that
then
was probably
never
one of the most
finishing
interesting
them.
parts about this
So
story.
with the best friend thing, her
weird
best friend ends up
shit.
liking her, and then they never talk about it again.
And then they tried to
she
do
goes
the whole
to
best
dinner
friend was in love with her
with Mateo, and
but it never went anywhere.
one of his rivals or something is there and starts flirting with her, and obviously to get him upset. And then after the date, the rival guy starts sending her like gifts and acting really obsessive to get back at Mateo. And then he threatens the guy, and it kind of seems like there's going to be more to, like, that's going to be a major plot point, like them beefing and him trying to steal his girl. But they never talk about that shit ever again. Like, it happens for 15% of the book, and then they never speak about it again. And they kept doing that over and over again.
They were trying to do too much, okay? They were trying to do too much. It didn't make sense. The way they tried to describe his business seemed like a 12-year-old who don't really know how the mafia works and just putting big words in there to make it seem like official and shit. It was bad. Like, it was really bad. So, yeah. I don't like judging books harshly. I don't, because it's art, essentially. But girl, don't ever write no shit like this ever again. Don't ever do no shit like this ever again. -1 star. Don't read it. If you read it, I'll pray for you, okay? Because that shit was just, it ruined my night. I'm not even gonna lie. It was the worst thing I've ever read. And I've read some pretty bad things. Like, it wasn't even comically bad. It was just bad. It felt like, you know how like a dude that you don't want to talk to and he keeps texting you? And he's like, why don't you text me back? And you're like, because I don't fucking like you. I don't want to text you. I don't want to text you back. But he keeps texting you and he doesn't get the hints. That's what this book feels like. Like, I kept trying to read it and kept trying to, like, you know, give it a chance, but it wasn't doing nothing but pissing me off the more and more I would read. So, TikTok recommendation. I would have honestly preferred a Fade to Black, and I hate Fade to Blacks, but she was just dumb. Like, The girl was dumb. What's her name? Ivory. Ivory was dumb. None of my bad, my cats. Anyway, none of the conflict was ever resolved. I think I seen something in the review. I don't even remember if I got to this part, but he fucked with her birth control or something, and he microchipped her. I still can't get over that. That shit was just, when I read that, I was like, this is the dumbest shit I've ever seen. Like, why? There was no reasoning for there was nothing, there was no substance. It was just story. There was no substance. There was no reason for him to do none of the shit he did. No reason for her to do. I'm the biggest advocate for these terrible villain men. And I'm like, well, you know, that's kind of sweet. No, not here. This was not one of those. I'm physically angry just talking about it. This is why I can't even articulate, because every time I think about the book, I get mad. He microchipped her. So, anyways, in the near future, I will be reviewing the Maid series, which is one of my favorite Mafia series ever in life. What's her name? Who wrote that? I forgot who wrote that, but that's my girl. And then an older one by an older author, and that one was really good too. So yeah, because this shit, I don't know what the fuck. Adelaide, don't ever write no shit like this again, okay? Do something else. Maybe this just, girl, I don't know if this is your first book ever. I don't know, but I'm so sorry. I gotta go. Okay, bye. Subscribe to me along for the ride. Suggest me books in the comment section. I'll be on Twitch. All the socials down below. I gotta go do something to light some sage or something because I'm pissed off. Bye.